My name is Mustafa Akwand, and in this episode, I'm with my co host, Senge Sering, who is a professional working on different subjects, helping the human being to be better person and helping a lot of minorities and majorities in different countries. Thank you very much, Senge, to be here. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Senge Sering. I come from Gilgit Baltistan. I live in Washington, D.C., and I run a nonprofit called Gilgit Baltistan Institute. And I'm very happy to be here with Mustafa Akram to do this podcast. And I think the best way to start up the podcast is that the co-host introduces himself. So thank you for getting me as your first guest.
Sure. Thank you very much, Senge. So, you are focusing on Gilgit Baltistan. To begin with, let's just, for some people like me who don't know exactly where is Gilgit, can you explain where is Gilgit and what is the situation over there?
Right. So I think geography matters a lot. And in this world, certain parts of the world get media attention because of their geography. So Gilgit Baltistan is extremely important for the international community because it exists between three nuclear powers of the world. In the north of Gilgit is China, in the southwest is Pakistan, and southeast is India. And then in the west is Afghanistan, which is boiling pot of strategic maneuvering right now, as we know. So it is a very important part as far as these countries are concerned. And any other country in the world that is interested in affairs in Afghanistan and the issues between India and Pakistan, or the situation that is evolving in Xinjiang, for instance, or Tibet, for instance. These are all neighbors of Gilgit-Baltistan. We are immediate neighbor of Chinese province of Xinjiang in the north, and to some extent Tibet in the east. And we are bridging a land between different important nations as well. So for instance, without Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan would not be able to connect itself physically with China. In the same way, without Gilgit-Baltistan, India would not be able to connect itself with its ally Afghanistan. So the strategic placement of Gilgit-Baltistan has made it an extremely important territory, and a lot of books have been written about it, about its politics, about its trade. And it's very close to the ancient Silk Route that we know connected China with Central Asia, Middle East, and all the way to the European nations. So I come from that region, and because of the importance of this region, I thought that I should establish a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. So whenever somebody needs my help to understand the situation there, about its people, about its culture, identities, about its natural resources, and politics, then I would be able to provide my services in that manner. So that's what I do. As Mustafa explained, I try to talk to different people with different interests in the region. I try to host different events, seminars. I try to communicate with different institutions, both bilateral and multilateral nature, that are involved in that region, including the different staffs of the United Nations, for instance, people at the U.S. Congress, and different institutions in the European Parliament, for instance, or the British Parliament. So Gilgit is becoming more important because now we know that China is evolving and posing itself as the next superpower of the world. It is evolving as a strong economy and as a strong military power. And Pakistan is China's ally, an extremely important country for China. China sees Pakistan as its extended arm. In the Muslim countries, so through Pakistan, China has been able to make a lot of inroads into Middle East. So I think these times are very interesting, and what I do is also the same nature.
All right. So basically, you are just explain this for me is that you citizen of Pakistan or you are a citizen of India?
So this is an extremely important question, and I think it's very funny in a way that you asked it with such an ease. But I think it's a very complicated issue, and it has a history of almost 75 years. So in 1947, when the British were dividing all its colonies all over the world, in Africa, in Asia, South America, North America, everywhere. What they were doing was for India, they made a constitutional arrangement through its government in London, and they divided India into two countries, India and Pakistan. There were parts of India at that time, lands that were governed from Delhi, for instance, which did not become part of India or Pakistan, like Myanmar became its own country. And we have the Gulf republics like Oman and Emirates and Qatar and other places, Bahrain, which were ruled from Delhi, from the same place, but they became independent countries. But yeah, when they distributed lands between India and Pakistan, my land constitutionally became part of India. But then a war happened between India and Pakistan, and after the end of the war, there was a ceasefire. And then the matter went to the United Nations Security Council. And at that time, Pakistan had already occupied my land, the district that I come from. So constitutionally, I had my ancestors had become part of India at that time, but then physically we became part of Pakistan. And then for about 10 more years, up until 1957, after the birth of Pakistan, I think, they had tried to resolve this matter through the Security Council. Nothing happened. One of the conditions that the Security Council put on Pakistan was that it had to withdraw all its soldiers, all its forces, all its citizens from Gilgit Baltistan. And Pakistan was not going to do that. So that's why we got stuck with the situation that we are in today, which is I kind of had dual citizenship of India, Pakistan, and at the same time did not have a citizenship of any country at all. Because constitutionally, even though my people live in Gilgit Baltistan within Pakistan right now, up until now, constitutionally, we're not Pakistani citizens. But we have access to Pakistani lands and jobs and other services, medical institutions, colleges, universities. And we also use Pakistani passport to travel to other countries. But when it comes to the Pakistani constitution, it clearly states that we are not Pakistani citizens. So that is, one big confusion that is there. Now, on the other hand, in 1949, when India formed its constitution, it clearly put us as its citizen in the constitution. And when it became a sovereign country, it claimed Gilgit Baltistan as its integral part, but then it didn't have any physical control over it. And then in 1970s, there was another war between India and Pakistan that also created Bangladesh as an independent country. So at that time, India was able to gain control of some of the villages of Gilgit Baltistan, and they became, Indian citizens and been able to enjoy constitutional rights there. So there is this confusion between India and Pakistan right now, which is they are not able to resolve this matter, and that is affecting the local people with their basic political, economic, needs is that whenever, for instance, we want to seek justice through Pakistani judicial system, for instance, we're told that we cannot take our case to the Pakistani Supreme Court because the people are not Pakistani citizens. For instance, whenever we have royalty issue, like Pakistan using our minerals or water, we do not get anything back in revenue because we are told that we're not Pakistani citizens. In the same way, there are a lot of other things that the local people should get as basic rights, but they are not able to because the law does not really protect them. So, it's very hard to blame, what's going on with the local people right now, but it's a huge impasse. An impasse is there because of the strategic location of Gilgit Baltistan and the fact that, India and Pakistan both are nuclear powers and they are always fighting over, territorial disputes, and no, big success has been able to, be made on either side.
Mm-hmm. So basically, whoever country that they want to, they can blame you for something, or they can blame the other country for that. But when it comes to your rights and your issues, you guys have a hard time to raise
exactly.
it.
Like our families are divided. There are people who have their children living on the other side. The people who are living, their brothers and siblings, they are living in India and Pakistan. And because of the tension between India and Pakistan, we can't really have a cross-border movement right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the biggest problem as well. Like people who have died basically waiting to be able to reunite it with their family members just because there's a huge wall between India and Pakistan through Gilgit Baltistan. They're not willing to even open it, just for a temporary reunion of the divided, separated family members.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are divided, what they do is they go to, for instance, Iraq, they go to Iran, they go to Syria. These are the places where the Shias have their, pilgrim sites. And so the majority of the people in the Gilgit Baltistan and on the other side, on the Indian side, along the line of control or the ceasefire line are Shia. So they go to these Shia sites and there they meet each other. And, it's a huge human catastrophe because at least, people should be allowed to see each other and they did not have to travel all the way to 1,000 miles away. Like they have to go to Middle East, to Dubai, or to other places, Kuwait, for instance, to meet each other. And this is something that is happening. So the war has brought a lot of, misery to the local people and a lot of waste of money and, nothing is being put towards the development of the local people. So these are the things that, really concern everyone.
Mm-hmm. So regarding the educational system, do you guys follow the educational system of Pakistan or India?
So the physical control is in Pakistan, so that means that we get our education, all the services, whether it's education, health, water, sewage, they're done through Pakistan. As I mentioned, that towards India, there's this huge wall. We cannot have cross-border movement like that for the last 75 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a road that connects Pakistan with China. So that is the main road that Pakistan uses to trade with China. And we also have a border with Afghanistan, but again, because of the political problems with Afghanistan, it is kind of closed. We never have any trade through that corridor. So it's only China-Pakistan corridor through Gilgit Baltistan. And all education that we get based. We don't have. Interesting thing is that we do not have our own school or college board. So Pakistani school and college education system is kind of replicated in Pakistan, and the funding that comes from Islamabad for local education, and it's the same way with the medical services. Is that a lot of supplies and jobs that come from Pakistan. bureaucracy in civil services, for instance, and judiciary, they all come from Pakistan. So Pakistan has control over the region, not only through its military force, but also through its administration, its bureaucracy. They all come from Pakistan, and they control the region and benefit from it.
This is very important for our listener to understand that the conflict of identity that is happening among the people, and they know that they are Pakistani, they know they are Indian, they have that issues that they have to explain not only for themselves, they have to explain it for their future generation of what are the things that is happening and what are the ways, because the future generation is always looking to see what the past generation did and what was their mistake or what was their success. Right now, with this conflict of identity, is something that the future generation will struggle a lot. And toward the education that you are saying, is that all the fundings, that everything that is coming from there, and you were mentioning that there is a lot of
You know what happens, Mustafa, in the war zones is that the biggest issue is trust, right?
Yes.
The governments really don't know how to trust the local people, how to engage their loyalties, how to measure their loyalties, because they're not really citizens of the country. So that is reflected the way the governments build their policies towards such regions. For instance, in Pakistan, when we say education, it's not really education, it's all indoctrination. You're not learning to be a useful, successful person out there in the world. It's all about stuffing information in your brain about how great Pakistan is, how amazing the country and its military is, how important it is to be loyal to the country, and how important it is to hate India and hate Hindus, how important it is to look at everything from the prism of Muslim versus non-Muslim. So basically, your children are growing up as confused people with no major skills to help themselves stand up on their feet as important, citizen contributing towards the overall wealth and good of the world, right? It is just about how to be loyal to Pakistan and how to abuse India. And this is all the books teach. This is all indoctrination that we are talking about, not education. For 16 years, we're taught the same thing again and again in different flavors with different angles, how to be a soldier ready to help Pakistan, fight against India whenever they're needed. And this happens in many countries in border areas, right? People are expected that they will be show their loyalty at any given point when needed. So I think that is one aspect.
But this trust that you are talking about is a one-way trust right now. It's just the government is asking the trust of the people, but it's not giving them anything to.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we tell them that, look, you are taking gold or copper or water resources from our region, and you owe us $30 billion every year for all the minerals and water resources you take from us, and you multiply that by 75 years since you've been occupying us, that does not make them realize that their, loyalty is two-way street. It actually makes them angry. It makes them angry, and then they become oppressive. So another issue, as you know, being Shia majority area, there's a lot of trust issues with Pakistan. So the Pakistan's lot of wealth that they spend in that area is to convert the local people into minority. So they create these different mechanisms, and they create these different apparatus that they have to bring in their own citizens and settle them in strategic areas along the Pakistan-China highway, for instance, or try to convert Shias into Sunnis in special valleys, certain valleys which are along the Indian border. And then, a lot of Shia genocide has happened in Pakistan in the last 75 years, and people of Gilgit Baltistan have been direct, refugees and victims of that situation too. So this is the problem with, living in a place where you can't really call it your own home because you're always suspected. Doesn't matter whether you are not doing anything wrong or not. You're never trusted. You're always suspected. It's whether you're a Shia or whether you're from a disputed area. You're always seen as someone who might use them, and that's how they are able to keep us in this guilt trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a trap there where instead of trying to convey this message to the Pakistan that we are equal partners, we should expect something in return for the services that we provide, or the natural resources they use, or the transit route they use with China, for instance. They use it for free. They never pay any toll to the local people, for instance. So we're always in this guilt.
Right.
We're trapped that we are doing something wrong, and Pakistan is always probably right that we have to show our loyalty to them, and maybe we're not able to prove ourselves loyal enough, and that's why we're not getting the revenues that we deserve, or the respect we deserve, the dignity, the equal citizenship that we deserve. So we are trapped in the situation, and it's whole psychological warfare, So this is, I think, something that a lot of people just miss. They don't understand.
This is very, very important for our listener to understand that right now, as Senge said, the government is asking for a trust, but it's telling the people that I don't trust you and I don't trust your religion, even though the history and the culture and everything in the Pakistan is showing that when it comes to the religion and when it comes to the war and discrimination, the Shia Muslims were discriminated in Pakistan in majority of the time. And there were so many issues that they had, but when government want to someone peaceful to host them, to be able to operate, they always went to the Shia area because they knew that they would not get targeted. They would not have that issue that they have in the other side of the region. And then right now, government with this situation is telling them that, okay, I need all your trust, I need all your loyalty, but I don't want to give you anything back. I will take your wealth, but I keep you poor. And if our listener just go on the Google and just put Gilgit Baltistan, look at the situation, look at the pictures. It's beautiful, beautiful place. I mean, look at the rivers, look at the mountains, look at the wealth that area has.
Yeah, we provide more than 60% of Pakistan's irrigation water. We provide for almost 60 or 70% of the income that comes from tourism. And we also provide almost 100% resources in terms of transit that Pakistan is with China. And one of the things that I forgot to mention is that Pakistan has a certain grudge against local people, that we do not really cooperate with them when they want to host their Islamic terrorists there. And they say, oh, because you guys are Shia, you don't like, jihad and stuff. And when we want to use your land against Afghanistan, against India, then there's this sense, that we feel that we might not be able to completely trust you with that. So we can't really use your land for that. And in the past, they have tried. And, the Shias on the India side, for instance, they are opposed to what Pakistan is doing in terms of bringing jihadis there and killing local people and raping local women and stuff like that. So there are many times where the Shias have, worked with the Indian army to expose those jihadis. And I think this is something that on the Pakistani side has played against the interest of the local people. And it has given them this, this excuse that Shias are not loyal. They're not dependable. They're not trustworthy. And there are a lot of organizations like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Jaish Muhammad, Al-Badr, and there are tons and tons of those organizations that work in the part of Jammu Kashmir or Gilgit-Baltistan that Pakistan controls right now, and they infiltrate towards India's side. And Pakistan has received more cooperation from the Sunni parts of Jammu Kashmir for infiltration. And when it comes to the Shia parts or the Buddhist parts or the Hindu parts, obviously there is some kind of lack of interest in that, which is very natural because we don't believe that Islam could be abused like that. It doesn't really serve the purpose of the local people. It doesn't really serve the purpose of Islam itself. It doesn't serve the purpose of killing innocent people and raping their women and stuff like that. So this is something that has been bothering the Pakistani authorities, that as long as Gilgit-Baltistan is a Shia area, we might not be able to use it for jihad purposes against India or Afghanistan. So that is one of the reasons that they have always used different tactics to convert local people into minority, either through genocide, through tribal attacks, through Shia Sunni, manufactured disputes that never exist locally. Most of the people who have disputes with local Shias are those who have been, outsiders and now settled there, and they work with the Pakistani army to attack local Shia. Local Sunnis do not have any problem with the local Shias. They have intermarriages. They coexist with each other. They share, all kind of chores in the villages during the agriculture season, for instance, or work with other in other sectors and stuff. So I think their lives are very different from these settlers. So I think, as you mentioned, we have all these natural resources that we give to Pakistan: uranium and copper and gold and water, and despite that, when they see that the local people are not very, accepting the strategic and the defense tactics and policies that the governments use, then it kind of work against the interest of the local people. Indirectly, what happens is that then government have different excuses to reduce the money for education and health and other sectors. 75 years have passed. We don't have even a single medical college there. We don't have even a single engineering college. And the region is 3 times the size of Maryland. It's huge. If you look at the map of Europe, Serbia is a country there. It's a big country. Our Gilgit-Baltistan is bigger than Serbia in area, and we don't have a single medical college or engineering college there yet.
Wow.
So that is what they're doing. They are forcing local people to go to other parts of Pakistan for education. That causes brain drain, obviously. And then when people move out because of lack of facilities, then they're replaced by their own people. So this is another way of demographic changes. That you might see it as natural way of people moving in and out, but this is government induced. This is done on purpose to force people to move out because they can't really live in their own life.
Well, it is surprising. I mean, obviously every day I'm learning something as well. Yesterday I was reading an article. It was saying that the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi that you were mentioning, they have in their constitution, and a couple other terrorist groups that they are operating in Pakistan, they have in their constitution that the Shia are infidel and they must be killed. And people who are not believing in the same way that the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi and the others are believing, they must be targeted. And obviously, if the majority of the Gilgit-Baltistan is a Shia, this is the best way either to convert them to what they think is the right way of religion, which no one can take that role, because every one of us has our own belief and our understanding. We can educate ourselves, but that doesn't mean that what we are doing and what we are worshiping is wrong. Same way, go to them. I mean, you mentioned that they are Sunni and Shia. Despite their differences, they are coexisting and living in together, because they don't base their livelihood on the religion. The humanity is more important for them, and living together and surviving and helping their society. But unfortunately, this political movement and political interest is something that is pushing those people to go towards something that they don't want to. And it is unfortunate. Let's say if Pakistan truly believe that the Gilgit Baltistan is their territory, and let's say it is a mother with a child, the mother would not push their child away from themselves. Mother will have that livelihood of being a mother. But unfortunately, what we've seen is that even though Pakistan is holding the Gilgit Baltistan, but at the same time pushing it back and telling the people over there that, you know what, yeah, I don't have your trust. I want to have your trust, but I will not give you that trust, and I will push you toward India. But at the same time, I will fight you because you are going toward India. It's just creating that confusion.
They're treating us more like an occupied land, where they could benefit as much as they could before it will slip out of their hands. So you're right. They do not treat local people as their own. They just want the land and the resources. And this is the problem with the occupying forces.
Right.
Is that they like to use the land without benefiting the local people. They don't want to build a trustworthy relationship with the local people. They do not want to have an inclusive policy. It's all about how to benefit at the cost of the local people. So this is it's very evident the way the land and the people have been treated for the last 75 years. And as far as you mentioned about Lashkar-e-Jhangi, then they have a huge presence in Gilgit Baltistan now. And in urban areas now, I think they're very, effective and very, important partners with the Pakistani military. It's the same with other parts in Pakistan, for instance, in Balochistan, in districts in different parts of Pakistan with the Shias have a significant population. Those are the areas where Lashkar-e-Jhangi have been given a task to control the local Shias and intimidate them and control them. And in Gilgit Baltistan, they're doing the same job. And this is going to affect the mindset of the future generations. As you said, we grew up coexisting with each other, even though we belong to Shia and Sunni religions and stuff. But in the future, in the coming generations, I think their behavior with each other will be completely different. The damage to the society, the overall damage that's been done cannot be undone. This is something that is going to hurt the territory in the land.
Right. So let's say our listener they heard us and they know now, they have basic understanding of where is Gilgit Baltistan and what is the situation over there. What is the thing that you are looking to see from the international community, from the society, from the people who have a passion to help others, and the people who are trying to change the world toward a peaceful country?
What we have done in the past, and we've been doing, is that we're trying to communicate to the international community that terrorism should not be a tool to promote foreign policy or strategic affairs. We should not be recognized as something normal, and if Pakistan is doing it, then international community should stop.
Mm-hmm.
International community should take notice of all the mushrooming of the madrasas in Pakistan. There are more than 40,000, 50,000 madrasas in Pakistan, and half of them are just like non-existent on papers. They're not registered.
Right.
About 26,000 or 27,000 of them probably registered. And all these madrasas, what they do is they promote hatred, they promote killing, they promote abuse of Islam as a political tool to hurt the minorities, to hurt non-Muslims, to hurt women, to hurt children. And I think this is something that we're doing. If there's a funding coming to Pakistan, there's money coming to Pakistan through the United Nations, through the United States, or any other country in the field of education and human resources, then they should take notice of where that money is going. What kind of education and indoctrination local people are receiving, which is hurting regions like Gilgit Baltistan and Balochistan and other places like Karachi.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that we expect, and that's why it's really important for a person like me to go and talk to someone at the United Nations, someone at the U.S. Congress, someone at the different think tanks who influence White House or State Department and their policies of funding international communities, right? We also expect India to play its role in open border towards the Pakistan, so to separate it families. But even though Pakistan resists that, and Pakistan is refusing to open it, but India and the international community should be working on that. And sometimes we don't have food for like weeks. We don't have supplies for weeks. It should come through. There should be alternative routes to India to provide for medical supplies, for instance. There's trade going on between Pakistani city of Lahore and Indian city of Amritsar, and if they can trade with each other, why not through Gilgit Baltistan? Why the local people have to be economically dependent on Islamabad all the time? So these are the things that need to be exposed, that how local people are kept marginalized and economically weak, so they could remain dependent on Islamabad for handouts and not be able to resist, all kind of like things thrown at them, like jihad and terrorism and stuff like that. Then we also like the United Nations to play a role. The United Nations Security Council has a resolution that Pakistan is to withdraw from Gilgit Baltistan, and Pakistan needs to be reminded again and again. So that is something that is very important. So international community has a role to play in Gilgit Baltistan. My job is to educate the local people, so local people have an understanding of who's the real culprit, and how the Pakistani government and the military have been able to, for the last 75 years, have been able to deprive locals of their rights. The Shia Sunni manufactured conflict in Gilgit Baltistan. It's not something real, and we have been accused of disloyalty to Pakistan. And the fact remains is that if we're not Pakistani citizens, then the question of loyalty does not really exist. You don't have to be loyal to a country if you're not a citizen of that country. If the United Nations says that it's an occupied land and Pakistan is an occupier, then we don't have to be loyal to an occupier. So, these are the things that I need to educate my own people over there. So, there are a lot of things that we need to do, and most of that is, educating and communicating and passing on information to make other entities realize that they have a certain role to play, and there's a certain way to look at Pakistan and they have to do it.
All right. Thank you very much, Senge, for this fantastic episode. I honestly I learned a lot. Now, let us know how people can reach you through the social media. Obviously, if they just put your name, Senge Sering, there is so many articles and interview done by you. But what are the social media that you have that they can reach you out? Where you are active? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? Which one you can provide to us so we can let the people to contact you if they need anything?
Yes, I'm on Twitter. I have more than 13,000 followers right now. And, I mostly talk about issues pertaining to Pakistan, India, China, and especially with an angle to Gilgit Baltistan. My handle on Twitter is Senge Sering. H is my initial for my middle name, which is Hasnan. And then I'm also on Facebook with the same name. And you will be able to Google me and what I have written. I write for different newspapers and magazines and online and media outlets there. I have a lot of interviews on YouTube that explains a lot about Gilgit Baltistan and Pakistan-India relations and what China is doing there. And it's in Urdu, it's in English, it's in different languages, in Hindi. So I think social media is the way to contact and stay in touch with the outside world nowadays. So I've been there for a long time, and I hope that you'll be able to go and read my articles and try to learn more about what Pakistan and China are doing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It was very informative episode, and we are looking forward to hear from our listener. Obviously, you might have a lot of questions. You can reach out to us, Senge Sering or Musafa Akawan, and both will provide you with the information and the documentation and address to our social media that you can link on and connect to us and ask the question if you have any questions. Senge, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to have another program with you and tell the people of what is going on in the world, and we will bring other people who are very active, professional human rights defenders, or people who have a passion towards something that is helping our society to become a better society and peaceful society.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to co-host it with you, and I hope to continue this trend, and I hope to talk to so many other interesting people that are out there in the U.S. and elsewhere, doing a great job.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.